This podcast is intended for mature audiences and contains adult language and subject matter. Listeners, please be advised.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Drinking with Your Ex. I am Blake Thompson.
And I am Bonnie Neal, and we are bringing this podcast to you because, frankly, we are exes. We dated around the turn of the century. Never gets old saying that, though I'm sure I will eventually get old enough to not like you saying that. We're both exes, and we both find ourselves single and over 40.
And have very strong opinions of why each other is single and the pitfalls and adventures that you have while dating in your 40s.
Oh, yeah, sure, adventures, let's call it that, as opposed to a death march of humiliation. It's great. It's love I'm reinventing to everybody. Anyway, this podcast has 3 rules, 1, 2, 3. The first one being each podcast is inspired by a particular kind of alcohol, because we are not sponsored. We are inspired by other. We are totally looking for sponsors. Hey.
We'll totally take sponsors, anyone, and we are cheap.
We are cheap, so cheap. Sometimes we might even be free, just letting you know. Each episode is inspired by a particular kind of alcohol. Each episode involves both Blake and I introducing the other one.
Yes, and also in the third rule, which is Bonnie's favorite, is the uncomfortable question, where, based on tonight's topic, the other can ask an uncomfortable question, and there are no takebacks, there are no backouts, there are no safeties.
Answer.
You must answer.
But it's fun, really. It's fun. It's fun. Just sit back and try. Anyway, tonight's episode is inspired by
Long Island iced teas. We're going with a cocktail tonight because tonight's topic is one-night stands and other dating fallacies that we like to talk about.
or no strings attached, other things you lie about yourself, including ordering a Long Island iced tea. You know, I order it just because I like the taste. No, said no one ever. Lies.
Yes, because everybody knows that you're standing behind the bar in the bathroom, hugging the toilet, going, why on earth did I drink that?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's such a fabulous idea.
Mm-hmm. So yes, brought to you by Long Island iced tea. You're welcome. And now I will start the second part of the podcast because you know I love it so much. This is where Blake and I introduced each other, in some ways each writing each other's tender headline profiles as a way to let the whole world know about my ex, Blake Thompson. I'm going to tell you something interesting about Blake Thompson. This is something that lets you know he's deep, ladies and gentlemen, deep. When Blake has a serious thing on his mind, a serious incident or something, what he will do is he will load up his entire Leonard Cohen collection and go for walks or drives, letting the dulcet tones of that beautiful bard who really hated himself and loved beautiful women to walk him through the night and walk him through his next issue.
Well, that's spot on, because Leonard Cohen is one of my favorite therapy musicians.
You're welcome. I thought that was a nice one.
That's a really good one. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce my ex, Bonnie Neal. Gentlemen, watch yourself. She may kneecap you while she's trying to flirt with you.
Lord. Charges were never pressed.
Yeah, and if you cut her, she may bleed 5 kinds of bourbon in political editorials.
Interesting. That's not bad. That's not bad. It seems a little... Oh, you are reading it from your phone. You spent time on that. Oh, my goodness. All right, so I just ad-lib it, and you're like, no. Bitch, I'm writing this shit down.
Oh, no. Every time I have a good idea, I write it down for later.
Wow. All right, well, isn't this fun? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on to tonight's topic. And tonight's topic started out through a dare. It started out through friends of ours who are dating who, now they're over 40, they still kind of cling to the bullshit things we made up when we were like, what, 12? So we just want to kind of highlight some of the non-consensual dating myths that seemingly people seem to believe and aspire to. They think they exist, and they think that, like, it's a goal to get. The number one being right now is the idea, the concept of no strings attached sexual relationship between two human beings. I personally think there's no such fucking thing as a no strings attached relationship. And that
As do I.
if there is a quote unquote successful no strings attached relationship, it pretty much involves two dissociated people bumping uglies, essentially, right? Like, let's just break down. What is a no strings attached relationship?
Basically, when people feel that there's no strings attached, we're talking about no emotional bonding or moments where it's like, no, it's like, we're just doing this. It could be called friends with benefits.
Right? Another lie.
Another
lies.
lie. Because anybody, let's be honest with you. If you're getting naked and going in for the funds, even sport fucking, guess what? There are strings, there are emotions. You say they're not, you're lying.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're lying or you're dissociating and kind of like congratulating oneself about it, right? You know, like if we've learned from listening to any of the yoga hippies in our lives, is that we are a, combined creature. It is mind, spirit, body. You cannot actually like have one without the others.
Nope.
As a human creature, you have a mind, you have a spirit, you have a body, you have a heart. It's not like they're playing cards that you could just pick one up and nope, I'm playing the body one tonight and that's all I'm going to be playing for this evening. Like
This isn't a game of Texas Hold'em, everybody.
Right.
You're not sitting there looking at your hand going, all right, I got a pair of deuces and that's all I got rolling on this one. It's not realistic.
There's a built-in lie there, right?
There's a built-in lie because all of us have feelings. And stating that you want a no strings attached means like you're wanting an upper hand on another individual based off feelings.
I feel like what no strings attached is better, what like a better title for it is that I want to use you as a sexual object and
Not feel
have
guilty
no
about it.
responsibility for your feelings about it, right? Like, basically, I want to use another human being as a sex toy and objectify them and feel like I'm winning, right? At its core, there's a dominance game happening there.
There is, and it's like basically what you're saying is it's like get out.
Or that I'm getting off on dehumanizing you, right?
Yes.
I find that hot, right? Which is, okay, that's also a kink, right?
I
That's
mean,
fine.
if that's a kink, communicate it, everybody.
Right, but I feel like no strings attached, there's something kind of non-consensual at its base because it's like a dehumanizing competition. Right? And what I hate about no strings attached is if you're in a quote unquote no strings attached relationship and you wait for it, catch the feels, then you have lost. Like, you have lost this game. Period. Lost the game. All over. Everybody's cheering at your defeat. You have lost, which implies that there was a game to begin with and you have failed. And I'm like, well, because you...
But you didn't fail. You're sitting there, you're having an intimate act with another human being that's going to elicit some sort of emotional response.
And also is like putting your life on the line. Like, sex is dangerous, people. Like, not only COVID, there's HIV, there's herpes, there's the SIF, right? There's
Insert
also,
STD here. I mean, like folks, sack it before you go in. Talk about safe sex because guess what? There are antibiotic resistant strains out there now.
Yes, so sex is a intimate, bodily, inherently dangerous act. And you are trying to tell me that you have no feelings about it? And the other person is not allowed to have feelings about it? And it does just seem like a tough guy game of chicken, right? That he who pretends not to have the feelings the most wins. I'm like, what are we winning exactly? I hate it so much.
There's no winning.
There's no winning, but it's a common game because I think it's also a common myth. And I do think people think male, female, in between the genders, I think they think that having a no strings attached relationship is a fucking goal worth striving and trying for. And I'm like, why? Like, and that if they can't...
And where are you getting it from?
And if they can't achieve this quote-unquote mythical no-strings-attached relationship, if they, wait for it, catch the feels, then they're a failure as a human being because they're not, evolved to a point of dissociative physicality that they can engage in a life-endangering act without having any feelings about it? Like, what the fuck, people?
You just proved to yourself once you catch the feels that you're not a sociopath.
Right. Yay! Congratulations. There should be champagne everywhere.
I know,
Congratulations.
right?
You are not a sociopath.
You're
You
not a sociopath.
are not
You are
good
caring
at
about another
emotionally
human
dissociating.
being, but you're caring for another human being.
Yes.
And if you're going to be intimate with another human being, there are always a string.
So I want to have you put on your therapist hat. It has been pointed out to me that a lot of what people like about our podcast is that you're actually a fucking therapist as opposed to like just two assholes talking about dating. You have the
By the way,
choice.
everybody, it's like I might be a therapist, but I'm also an asshole. So
It's true. They're not mutually exclusive.
They're not mutually exclusive on this one.
If you've listened thus far, you know the truth of those words. But so, all right, you put on your therapist hat. You are the therapist, and you have a client coming in who is insisting that no strings attached relationships are the bomb kaboom, and this is everything that they've ever dreamed of, ever wanted. And why is the person they're currently engaging in this no strings attached relationship? Why is this person like ruining everything by catching the feels? What do you think? What's your thought? What is your diagnosis?
It's like I wouldn't say a diagnosis, but I would say it's more of a behavioral. It's more behavior than anything.
Elaborate. I don't know what that means.
What's happening is you have a behavior where you're saying that you are creating a habit
Okay.
that allows you to protect your emotional feelings. By saying there's no strings attached, you're building a foundation for saying that I'm going to be, as Bonnie likes to point out on me, emotionally unavailable. And when it comes to no strings attached, you're basically, that's your hand. You're playing your hand for that other person, letting them know that you are emotionally unavailable to them for anything further than sport fucking.
And forgive me, because I've also pointed you out as being emotionally unavailable for anything other. If somebody is emotionally unavailable for anything other than sport fucking, is that a sign that they're a good catch? Is that a sign that they're somebody one should date and spend any kind of time or attention around? Is that a dream weaver?
You're using it again.
I know, I'm sorry, but I love it. Very influenced by Wayne's World.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to stand outside with my boombox now. But anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me as like a fucking red flag.
No, it's a big red flag because you have someone that's actively communicating that they don't want anything further than other than, it's like, so every once in a while, I need to get my rocks off. You're available.
You're my live action sex toy.
Yes.
And that's really all I'm capable of seeing you as.
And I'm dehumanizing you in the process.
Because
Where
I kind of need that, because if you were actually human, I would get the hives and have to run away. I mean, it is a sign of I'm completely incapable of intimacy.
Absolutely.
So,
but,
I mean,
but
so
also
is that the attractive goal? Is that like once somebody achieves this what Masters of the Universe moment where they're like, I'm capable of emotional intimacy? Aren't that fucking hot? Like, I don't get it. I don't.
But again, as we were saying, like in a therapeutic environment, it usually comes out that this is an ill behavior. It comes out that it's not realistic because you're going to have feelings. The individual that says, I want no strings, sooner or later is going to have a feeling. You're going to be thinking about it. The moment you start thinking about it, it's like, hey, I'd really like to get together with them again. Okay, guess what, y'all? Feeling.
Caught the feels.
You caught a feel.
Or what if, I actually think the more common feeling from a quote unquote no strings attached engagement is a sense of loneliness, right? Because you're like, well, I just did an intimate act with a stranger and, you know, they've taken off, the Uber's come, and I'm like, well.
I'm on my cab ride home and I'm alone.
And was that the goal? Like, what is there a sense of triumph, a sense of conquer, a sense of like
emptiness?
I mean, it does seem at its core kind of empty. You know, I mean, orgasms are great. They are actually good for mental health and physical health. Yay. I mean, Oprah says we should be having at least over 400 a year. So if Oprah says it should be true. I'm not against orgasms at all. I'm a big fan. But I'm also saying that like I feel like there's something kind of emotionally abusive, both to yourself and to your partner by this constant pursuit of,
because you touched on it.
No strings attached, dissociation.
Well, that's it. You touched on it earlier on, and now you're disassociating yourself from feelings for another human being. So
or from your own feelings about it.
Again, from your own feelings, where you're setting yourself up for an emotional roller coaster. Because it's going to happen. Sooner or later, there's going to be a discussion. Sooner or later, there's going to be an argument. Sooner or later, there's going to be a fight, abuse, you name it. Like any of these things can occur because you're dehumanizing another individual.
And accepting their dehumanization of you. And it's a game of chicken, right? It's like he who blinks first. He who catches the feels first loses. And then, oh my God, you ruined this perfect, no strings attached bubble. I must leave you and go on to the next one. it must go on to my next live action sex toy.
Right, and becomes a habitual act where, like as I was saying, it's a behavior. It's something where, and it's something where you're getting some sort of gratification, either positive or negative, from it. Like for some reason, you have maybe experienced a trauma, you've had a bad relationship, you're coming out of a bad breakup, and you're thinking, all right, I don't know what feels from the next person I'm with, him or her, whatever.
I don't want feels, is that what you mean?
I don't want the feels because insert said previous experience here.
So I believe the term you're skating around is scared, fear.
Yes.
Right? I mean, for me, the idea of no strings, the attraction to no strings
fear.
attached is you're trying to mitigate the fear of being close to somebody, being hurt by somebody, the inherent fear that comes from sex with another human being, the inherent fear that comes from wanting and needing something from another human being, and the chance that they might say no, might reject you, might shiv you in the shower, right? You know, I mean, there's... we are humans. We are apex predators. We are individual predators that function as a pack and a herd, which means we have to work together, even though we're individual apex predators. We're dangerous to each other.
It's like the no strings attached fallacy is having your cake and eating it too.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, I've always heard that before, but what does that mean to you when you say it?
Basically, it's like I'm getting all the benefits out of this while I'm not having to give anything for it.
The idea of like a no risk reward, right?
Yeah.
I'm risking nothing and getting everything, with the idea that, no strings attached sex is just some sort of magical prize.
Right.
That I'm getting away without, like, I'm getting the milk for free, don't have to buy the cow. And let's insert all other kinds of misogynistic bullshit. But I've had, men, women, all the genders, I've had all of them earnestly tell me that no strings attached is real and they've benefited from it, they've loved it, it's made them feel powerful, which I think is a really interesting word. Because yes, I understand like the power to reject somebody.
Right. And also not
without
only
any
powerful,
guilt, right?
but I mean not only the power behind it, but again, the fear behind it. Like you're saying you're having a fear of an emotional relationship. You're having the fear of some type of commitment, irregardless of the fact that you just had a form of commitment by engaging in a sexual activity with another human being.
Right. That act actually has a shit ton of like fine print commitments that we're all just going to kind of collectively ignore or pretend aren't there until like insert positive test for herpes, syphilis, baby.
Right. Yeah, can I see your
HIV?
medical records, please? And do you have a condom on you?
Well, and that's what it is, right? Like they're all like, well, no, I'm clean. It's fine. Like the exchanging of like tests and all this kind of stuff as if there's it's a passport to this no strings attached thing. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say, like it somewhat makes sense in your teens and 20s, even though I do think this is kind of when we're like baby sharks gnawing on each other and teaching each other a blood sport of disassociating our feelings from our bodies, that's like the training wheels of it, right? But once you're in your 40s, right? Like what's the end game here? Like why do this? Why? Like what are you trying to do? What are you trying to win?
It's a no-win. Especially like if you're out there looking for a relationship and you're saying, well, I don't want no strings at first. Okay.
I don't want no strings at first. Yeah, you've heard that? Somebody said that to you?
I've heard that. I've heard I've had actually on a date.
I don't want no strings at first, but once we get to know each other,
then
let's fully emotionally dissociate in a way that might actually feel like amputation. And that's totally what I'm into. You into it? Right?
Yeah. And now, mind you, in that date, it did not end well.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm sorry, but talk about fucking mixed messages. Like,
it's like, okay, then why are you here? Because I'm very clear in my dating profile what I'm looking for, and you're telling me this now.
There's a defensiveness to it, right? And our mutual friend, who really will throw down and wants to die on this hill, that no strings attached is a perfectly emotionally valid relationship status to pursue. It's interesting that she calls it a relationship status to pursue. Let's start there. But she'll die on that hill, and yet she admits to wanting the exact fucking opposite of it. And I keep pushing her because I actually think there's a fantasy in the romanticism, that like how we romanticize the concept of no strings attached, right?
And again, no strings attached, I feel was and again, you're using the right word, romanticized, especially in movies and television.
Yes, there's a rom-com fantasy. I feel like I've seen this one.
Yeah,
I feel like maybe Justin Timberlake was in it. I'm not sure.
I mean,
right?
like Yeah, inserts that movie here. Bring in Ryan Gosling, everybody. I mean,
Yes, right. Like here's the fantasy. Here's the rom-com fantasy of no strings attached relationships is like two beautiful women or two beautiful humans or two beautiful women's, right? Two beautiful humans are slightly tipsy at a bar at the end of the evening. Their eyes lock and they both realize they were both a 10 they were both a 10 at 10 p.m. and now they are still a 10 at 2 a.m. Yes, hashtag winning, beautiful people. And then they go home, they have drunken sex that seemed mildly satisfying. They wake up the next morning, they're like, oh no, I could never. I'm so busy, I could not. No, can't even think about it. I don't want babies, I don't want you, I don't want like, fine. But we kind of knock boots. Well, yeah, well, let's keep this knocking the boots thing going. And then, so they keep, quote unquote, knocking boots and doing no strings attached for what? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
and all of a sudden, that no strings attached turns into you're dating.
You're dating, but I don't want to date. Oh my God, you broke the rules. You caught the feels. I can't even. I'm gonna go away, and then there's some sort of boombox playing outside of a window because one or both of them realize, oh, I can't quit you, and they come back to the idea that no strings attached does actually lead to actual feelings, and they both become so brave to admit, oh my God, I actually kind of like you. Please like my hideously
And again,
retarded
everyone,
life.
there's a big difference between a one-night stand where you pick up somebody in a bar, you wake up the next morning and you realize, okay, I may have made a mistake. Or I said, it's 2 a.m., I'm lonely, I'm going home with this person. And then you never speak to them again.
Yes.
Big difference.
True, but I also have like some pretty straightforward rules about that too. I don't think like a one-night stand gives anybody the authority to treat the other person as a disposable human. Don't do that.
Because I know in my 40s, the last thing in the world I want right now is a one-night stand. It was one. I'll say this, fellas, I don't know about y'all, but the amount of pressure that you're putting on yourself to complete and actively succeed at a one-night stand while you're sitting there going, I'm 5 Jamesons in and I'm a rock star.
Yeah.
No, you're not. Stop that.
Oh man, this is the rodeo. This actually might be a child's ride outside of HEB. No.
Because you're sitting there, it's like, you think, I'm walking down the road with her on the beach, and you realize that you're just really drunk dragging a mannequin into an alley.
Dear Lord, that's very specific. Like, yes. I mean, okay, so maybe we did engage in all these stupid, stunningly stupid, emotionally dissociative acts in our teens, 20s, and 30s. Yeah, but what point do they serve now that you're over 40? Like, what's the goal here, right?
If there is one.
Yeah, like
You might be sitting there like you could be emotionally unavailable. You could be unsure of what you want. You could be questioning things. You could be questioning your desires, looking at your different types, not understanding where you're at and what you actually want to do here. And then it's like, are you swiping left or are you swiping right? What dating app are you using? But again, as we said, this is just one of many fallacies that we want to tell ourselves about dating.
there's an inherent lie here, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it's chicken shitting it's wading into the kiddie pool, because it's a real chicken shit way into getting into the dating world without ever actually having to like date.
Yeah.
Or you are going on multiple dates, but you are still aiming for that goal, right? The successful dating being like getting laid, right on, right? So you're getting laid, so you're quote unquote hashtag winning.
But what are you winning?
And what are you winning? At the end of the day, don't you actually want a relationship? Don't you want a partner? Don't you want
Because there's an
like
inherent...
somebody to like pick you up from the hospital when you just came through abdominal surgery, right? But this behavior seems to be completely
empty.
counterproductive. If
It
that's
is.
what it is you want.
But it's a behavior and it's a defense mechanism.
Yes. And
It's like you're using terminology to justify your behavior.
And I think dating over 40, if that's kind of what the gentleman is presenting and offering me, I just see it as a red flag. I just see it as you can't actually locate your emotional self with like a fucking map. Okay, you may be 40, 45, but you're actually emotionally probably 15 and maybe need a hug and some marshmallows. I'm just saying. But like there's something very emotionally arrested about it.
I got an idea. Let's take you around, get you some hot cocoa. Let's watch Goonies and just call it a day.
Right. Yeah, because it's arrested. It's regressive, right?
Right.
And I know there are people out there that are maybe this mythically sexually liberated human that can have intense, honest, caring, meaningful sexual interactions with strangers and multiple people and walk away grown as a human and better made from it. But I also want to say that, like, I think they're the fucking exception, not the goddamn rule, that they're on a different journey here.
Yeah, but also the people you're talking about, there's communication involved in this.
Yes.
Where you saying that there's no strings, you're also hindering communication between the partner that you're actually engaging with.
Right. No strings is essentially a gag order.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Right?
Right.
You're just shutting down any kind of conversation, communication about emotions, period.
Yeah. And again, but like no strings is just one of the many fallacies we want to talk about tonight.
Well, and then the next one, right? So you're right. All right, Bonnie, you know, you're kind of like a judgy McJudgy bitch, right? I'm not into no strings attached, but what I really do is that I just kind of want a consistent access to booty while I'm out there trying to, you know, put my heart out there. So consistent access to booty with somebody I care about. Welcome to the next life, Friends with Benefits.
Friends with benefits, where again, it's a fallacy because there's a large amount of communication that needs to occur.
I don't think Friends with Benefits is the complete and utter fucking lie. The no strings attached is. I do think Friends with Benefits is like, oh, what's that kink? CNC, like consensual non-consent.
Yeah.
I do think Friends with Benefits is like CNC kink in that it has to be, that kind of consent has to be consistently, frequently, enthusiastically reinforced on a regular fucking basis.
And also the thing about Friends with Benefits is part of me feels it's rude.
It can be.
Just for the fact
I've
that
seen some Friends with Benefit like that actually were loving and caring, but they also had they got a firm beginning and a firm end.
Yeah, as have I. But there's some situations I've seen where it's like, okay, I just went on 6 dates this week and I am not batting 1,000. Hey, what you up to? You want to?
Sport fucking.
Yeah.
So it's sport fucking amongst friends, right?
Right.
You and I have gay engagements in the past, right?
Yes.
But yes, use your words, consent to it, not consent to it, and try not to go to your friends looking to recreate the no strings attached dehumanization contract, right? That's what makes you an asshole, not a friend.
Right.
If you treat your friend like a disposable sex toy, you're just an asshole.
Absolutely.
I just feel like with Friends with Benefits, what you're saying is like, well, I'm not sleeping with a stranger, I'm sleeping with somebody I care about and they care about me. But I also don't have to engage in the emotional commitment of a committed, monogamous, whatever, polyamorous, whatever actual...
Insert said, highly communicated relationship.
Right, but you're also still like, technically, I mean, theoretically, in a fucking friendship, which means you give a shit about their feelings, you give a shit about their day, you give a shit about how they're feeling, how you make them feel, right? Like, you kind of have to keep talking about that. You kind of have to be in it. You may not have to be somebody who wants to pick out, like, China and, you know, China patterns and, you know, wedding photos, but you also still, like, this is an excuse not to be a human.
Right.
I'm sorry. I feel very strong.
I know. I can tell. Like, we've touched on a hot topic tonight, everybody.
Yeah, I just...
But again, it's like if you're going to have a friends with benefits conversation and you're friends with somebody that you're not in a non-committed relationship, but every once in a while you're getting together and going, hey, we just had a couple drinks, let's go get naked.
Right.
Communicate it.
Yeah.
Talk it out. Acknowledge that other person has feelings.
Yes.
Acknowledge that other person is a human being.
Yes, and is maybe coming into this agreement with their own set of trauma and soft spots. I mean, the times in our past when you and I have engaged in sport fucking, sometimes it was just truly drunken opportunism.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely drunken opportunism. You know, 2 a.m. I'm kind of horny. Want to? Yeah. Right.
Sure.
Right?
That bottle of Jameson went quickly.
And I actually remember the few times that happened, we actually talked about it. I think we actually said that this is, well, better choices than taking home a stranger tonight. But
we also realized
I'm not in love with you. I don't want to get back together with you. These are words that were actually fucking said.
Yes.
Right?
We actually actively communicated all this, that we realized sport fucking just wasn't, you know what, we're better friends.
We're better friends, right? But mainly because there's just a lot of brutally fucking conversations to be had at 2 a.m. And I'm like, no, Blake, I don't want to hear about how you think I'm emotionally unavailable for people. Not right now. You know, but that, and I do think that Friends with Benefits also has a beginning and end moment, right? One of the best stories I ever saw, or one of the best, most successful Friends with Benefits relationships I ever saw was with a friend of mine who was just getting out of a very abusive, toxic, but all-encompassing marriage. Right? Her and her husband had kind of meshed into this really, really abusive, all-encompassing kind of thing where he was very controlling, he was very paranoid, he was very mentally ill, and he kind of kept her trapped at her house, right? And it took a lot of courage and it took a lot of oomph to get out of that. And I was wildly proud of her for leaving him and then, getting her own place. And I knew that she was somebody who she would only be alone as long as she wanted to. She is somebody who has always had men flock to her. They're just always kind of interested in her, and I knew that she would only be alone as she wanted to be. And I also worried about her falling into rebounds, falling into other bad habits. I also worried about her future ex-husband kind of continuing to stalk and perpetrate her. She wound up in a friends with benefits relationship with a longtime friend of hers. They had known each other a really long time. I think they'd flirted a couple of times, but she'd been married a while, and he'd been in and out of relationships, so they both kind of found themselves single, ostensibly, at this time, and where she was in no way, shape, or form ready for any kind of emotional, romantic relationship. But I think she also wanted and needed sex and a male attention that was positive, and these are all human things. And I think he kind of also did too. So they did literally negotiate a long-term, continuous sexual relationship that was very healing, that was very kind, that was, frankly, from what I heard, super hot, but that didn't involve asking of her anything more than to just care about him and be kind to him. And he was kind to her. And as she went through her divorce and came out on the other side of it, and as she was going through all that, he met somebody and ended their sexual relationship kindly, gently, and firmly. And they're still friends to this day. He wound up marrying the person that he met, but there was so much respect and love there, but also tenuous communication.
And you just said like the two main things, respect and communication.
Yes.
Like there was active communication through the entirety of the process. It wasn't, Yanti.
Right.
It wasn't that.
Or that I am in between relationships. I'm coming off of a bad rebound. I need a little bit of sexual healing, sexual gratification. I'm not willing to commit to being bootyless through the entire fucking pandemic. Hey, we're friends, sort of, right? Why don't we just knock some uglies and both pretend that we have no feelings about that, but you're my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. When you're treating another human being like a disposable sex toy and feeling like you're winning, I think
There's no winning.
There's a lie here. There's just an inherent
There's no winning.
lie. You're lying to somebody else, definitely, but you're probably lying to
Because when
yourself.
someone's going to get hurt.
Yes. And you're just playing a not it, not me.
Yeah, you're just saying, you're just wiping your hands. It's like, no, I am claiming no responsibility for that other person's feelings that they're having right now. And something I said, no strings, or no, this was friends with benefits. That's all we were doing.
Right. You've caught feels, therefore you've broken the contract, therefore you've lost. And now we're no longer friends and no longer engaging in benefits. I don't know. I just hate it. Like these are the things about the heteronormative world. And I know this does exist in the queer world too, but like there's something about the heteronormative world that this kind of idea persists and at its core is just dehumanizing shit.
Well, it's also, it's like reinforced through our media. It's reinforced through our entertainment. It's reinforced in our music. And again, I'm not saying I'm not becoming all puritanical and whatnot, but there are just certain, like, we've all heard those songs. We've all watched that TV show. We've all seen that movie where no strings or friends with benefits or insert said fallacy here was portrayed as a positive.
I'm also, I think we're also we're leaving out the mood altering substances from this conversation, right? Like how much of these no strings attached relationships start out with beer goggles?
Yeah.
And
beer goggles, Coke goggles, acid goggles, Molly goggles.
Right. That is a time actually for remarkable honesty, but maybe you're not super capable of it at the time. And one, I'm a big believer in not making sexual choices while altered. I'm reminded of a situation we saw recently where I'm just a big fan of just blunt ass fucking honesty. If this is what you're doing, all right, where she's on the rebound. She is definitely on the rebound. She just came off of a really bad breakup. She is chatting up a very cute, really intoxicated lawyer. And, he's totally defending this idea of no strings attached sex. It's totally her thing. It happens like this, and we're like in our arguing. And I was like, well, no, because I think no strings attached depends on somebody not actually being honest. I was like, if she said to you, I'm on the rebound and I just need to replace the scent of him in my mind. So I want to go home with you so I can fuck a new person and therefore, get over my ex's like imprint on my body.
Instant replacement sex.
Instant replacement sex, right? And he was like, well, I don't think you have to put it that way. I'm like, why? It's the truth. He's like, well, but I mean, that takes the romance out of it. I'm like, where's the fucking romance, dude?
There is no romance in this.
I was like, I'm sorry, tell me your romantic idea about what's happening right now. Yeah, and I was just like, well, I mean,
It's like,
but he was like, no, I need a little bit more romance than that. I'm like, you mean if a girl comes up and says, hey, just broke up with my, shitty ex-boyfriend, and I'm just horny and want to kind of, erase him from my skin, you up for it?
Yeah.
You're
I'm
saying
gonna
like,
do some coke in the bathroom, then we're gonna come out and we're gonna go.
yeah, right? I mean, like, that's refreshing honesty, but you
Yeah.
mean you wouldn't be into it? Why? Why? Because it feels a little dehumanizing, makes you feel like a sex toy, makes it seem like she could make that offer to anybody.
The control was taken out. The
anybody
control
at the
was
bar?
taken out of your hands, and you were being dictated to.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, wait for it. Dehumanizing? What? Sorry. Blake and I have kind of gone round and round about having this topic in a podcast, mainly because we just agree with each other, right? And so I feel like this would just be an ongoing snark, judgy McJudgy conversation.
Because both of us have very strong feelings about this. I learned in my early teens, no strings attached was not real.
I mean, it took me a lot longer than that, but
just because hey, there's no strings, I caught feels, or there's no strings, she caught feels.
Oh, well, there you go. Are we at the uncomfortable? Yes, we are at the uncomfortable question part. So, uncomfortable question. Tell me an incident when you engaged in no strings attached and she caught feels. What did you say and what did you do?
It's really not an uncomfortable question.
I'll be the judge of that. Continue.
We started dating.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. I need drink for details.
Okay, both of us were 16. Both of us were getting out of said relationships, and she was actually a person of status at school. So our relationship was also a secret.
And y'all were having sex?
Yes.
Ohio. Go ahead.
Yeah. Our relationship was also a secret, where it's like,
you were her backdoor man?
I was, okay, let's be honest, my junior year in high school, everyone, like, I'm like all 6.5 feet tall of me with my top knot on my head and my army jacket. Yeah, and my hair flowing down my shoulders. It was feathered and dangerous.
Wow.
Yeah, walking around in my combat boots.
We'll get a picture, ladies and gentlemen, and put it up on the website. Don't you worry. I will find photographic evidence of top knot 16-year-old Blake. Go ahead.
Blake had a full head of hair. Just had the top knot pulled back and the hair falling down over the shoulders. There is photographic evidence out there, everyone. It would not have done her status well at school.
Is this like a Judd Apatow, Molly Ringwald Breakfast Club kind of thing? Is that what,
Kind
that
of,
is?
yeah, kind of, sort of.
Oh, yeah, bad boy. Uh-huh.
Kind of, sort of.
And she was a princess.
And she was princess. She was serious princess. And also, most princesses at school, their parents didn't like mine.
Your parents are hard to like, but I get your point. So you guys are sneaking around.
We're sneaking around, and like we said, there's no strings. And she
Whatever
was actually
that means it's 16.
She's actually the one that brought this up. There's no strings. It's like once this is over, I'm calling it. It's over.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like,
power move,
I'm like, okay, respect. I got you. Because I'm 16-year-old, and I'm banging a cheerleader. Everybody, I'm living the high school dream.
Already having the misogynistic hashtag winning. Yep, I get it.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
But again, 16, and then like we went to a movie one night, and we were just sitting there, and she reached over and started holding my hand.
Ooh, in public.
In public.
How did that feel?
It was like, I'm like, whoa, there's feels here, and she's like, shut up.
All right. Did you already have feelings for her? Would you have been her boyfriend in a hot minute if she would just to give him the green light?
Probably.
Okay. So you were
probably, but
you were containing your feels for her.
I was containing them, but also I was enjoying the adventure of it.
Right. But you already had Dreamweaver playing in your mind. You just had it, you just had it on mute.
Yeah, I'm walking around in my trench coat, not saying a word.
So it's a battle of wills at that point, right?
It was one of those things where it was in. Like, we dated for a while, but most 16-year-old relationships, summer hit, school was over, it was over.
So is this the only experience you have with a no strings attached where...
That was my first.
Well, okay. Is it one where
my
you were out of acne phase?
My second was when I was out of high school. And that was, like, I'm running around, driving around in a 78 Trans Am, going to different concerts, going to the local concert halls and whatnot, and trying to hook up with anybody I could, because I didn't know what I was looking for at the time. And there was a certain girl that hung out at this concert hall called Rebo's. I picked her up, and we were talking, and then we hit it off, went out, and then when a sexual relationship started occurring, she goes, "Don't catch the feels, because I can be gone in a minute."
How did that feel to hear?
It hurt, because I was actively looking for a relationship, and
It seemed like a slap in the face, right?
It did.
It's very straightforward rejection, right?
I felt disposable.
Well, yeah, you're good enough for this, but not good enough for that.
Yeah, it's like good enough to like have sex in the backseat in a parking lot, but it's like,
Romantic.
yeah, very right. But it's like, don't ask me out for dinner. We're not dating.
How did that end?
Badly.
What do you mean?
I'll be honest. I had the feels. I had all the feels, and I was honest about it, and I was ceremoniously disposed of in public.
Ooh,
Yeah, in front of all my friends.
wow. Like, slapped your face or laughed at you, kicked you? Like,
Think I was going to keep dating you? You're a good fuck, but you're a 5 out of 10. And
oh, God.
in a public place, and there's probably about 20, 30 people there I knew.
Oh, God.
I nodded. I quietly walked out, didn't say a word, got in my car, did the only fucking screaming donut in the parking lot, and drove 100 miles all the way home.
Oh, I went to give baby Blake a big hug. Oh, God, that sounds horrible.
And I learned in my early teens, like at this time I was 19, I learned there's no such thing as no strings, because someone's going to catch a feel. On both times it was me.
Looking back and through your therapist lens, what do you think her motivation was for that behavior?
It was a power play.
Yes.
Embarrassed me in public. I would say that she wanted to hurt somebody that night, and it was me.
Do you think you scared her?
I don't know.
Did you force your feelings on her in public? Did she feel cornered on that?
Kept my distance even.
So she was just lashing out.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, darling. That's a horrible story. Painful story.
Yep. And ironically, 2 years ago, she tried to friend me on Facebook.
The hateful cunt.
And I'm like I saw her name pop up in a friend request. I was like, get the absolute fuck out of here.
I wonder if she has something to say. You know, I was not a really nice person in high school.
It's a hard memory for me. It's not something I wanted to revisit. And it's like, oh, hi, sure, I want to talk to you. Yes, you broke my heart when I was 19. Thanks.
You didn't just break it. You stomped on it in public.
Yeah.
Cruelty, right? Like
Yeah.
there's the casual cruelty that exists between men and women, and the encouragement for casual cruelty that happens between two people trying to engage in a sexual romantic relationship is what always kind of gives me hives. It always what gives me the heebie-jeebies about it, because I don't like to encourage it. I don't like to experience it. I don't ever think that if you're in a place of cruelty and you haven't gotten consent from the other person, that you signs are that you're probably not right, and you're operating from a space of a lot of fear and a lot of pain.
Right. And again, as I said, I learned early on, no strings is a lie. It's a flat out lie. Because sooner or later, someone, one of the two, or three or four, depending on what type of relationship it is, someone is going to have a feeling.
And that means that they're human, not that they are less than human.
Right. No one's disposable.
No one's disposable. And if you feel powerful by the act of disposing of humans, you're the asshole. Sorry.
100%.
Well, thanks for telling that story. I'm sorry I kind of pushed you on it. No, I'm not. But thank you for telling me.
No worries. I mean, those are two of one of the highlights of Blake's early dating life. Woo!
Do you think you ever made anybody feel that way?
Probably.
Did anybody come to mind? Or are you just assuming that?
Okay, so between 18 and 19, I was trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted and who I wanted.
Well, that is what 18 and 19 is about.
I didn't know my ass from my elbow. Not even going to pretend like I knew everything, even though at the time I thought I was invincible, ruled the world, and was the coolest thing on earth.
No, but that's the best thing about being 18, right? Like, it's the only time on the world that you are invincible, and you actually truly feel it. Except, and you need to savor that moment. It's going to pass so quickly. You need to savor it, and then, so you always have fond memories of it.
I know there's a picture of me. I know my mom has it, and I want to, like, the next time I go home, I want to find it. I'm leaning on that Trans Am smoking a cigarette. Someone snapped a picture of me smoking a cigarette, standing there in my leather jacket, and I'm just...
feeling too cool for school. You are the coolest you have ever been, will ever be.
Exactly. Right there at that moment. It's like, I was like, okay. Like, I'm a rock star in my own mind. Cue my theme music.
What was your theme music?
Well, at the time, I was going to a lot of local punk shows. So, I mean, it could have been anything. It's like, actually, like, I want to reiterate that question to you. for uncomfortable question. When was your first no string attached moment, and how did it end?
My first one?
Your first one or your worst one?
Man, I was just such a damaged child, and I was an even worse teenager. I was mean. I was a mean girl in high school and enjoyed, or, told myself that I did enjoyed hurting people, enjoyed torturing girls from good families, because I was just so mad at them because I had a real shit family. I don't know, I don't really know. I would say that I think I always believed in that game. I always believed in the he who cares less wins. When we were together, that was kind of a stunning exception. And then my first love was also a real stunning exception. But I would think that pretty much everybody I kind of dated, slept around with throughout most of my 20s, I enjoyed playing that game and assuming the, stereotypical het male role of it. I enjoyed making them feel disposable. I enjoyed making them feel cheap. I enjoyed that. Cause I was just so fucking mad, and I was just working out a shit ton of rage. I wish I could tell you there's one instance, but it's a decade that I'm just not super proud of. I remember when you and I broke up, and I was talking with my best friend, and I said, Blake's a nice guy, and I'm not a nice girl. And I don't think I need to play the games I want to play with nice guys. And I think I need to play them with the same kind of assholes that I am, right? Which is why I'm kind of very uniquely familiar with all the various different ways we can race to the bottom and how we hurt each other and how we disrespect each other. You know that part of me, right? There's a part of me that just lights up when the guy gets misogynistic because I'm like, oh, is this the game we get to play? Is this the game we get to play? You get to be misogynistic. I get to be emasculating. I got it. I'm going to win. And, Jesus.
I've seen this in action, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't pretty.
And it's not pretty, right? I mean, I might win, but we both lose, right? Like, Carrie once said to me that I've spent my time on the front lines of the battle with the sexes on the fucking war. And I was there to take no prisoners. And I'm not proud of it. But I think I understand more than most the kind of fear that drives you there and keeps you there. And just, man, what it feels like to know yourself capable of that kind of cruelty. And just, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was not better. I'm sorry I was there to hurt. And when I see this kind of behavior in men and women, but honestly, when I see it in men, I want to reach out to them because I think that really at their core, that kind of desire to have the other person be not quite human comes from just this deep sense of fear. At least it did for me. And I think they really kind of just need a hug, even though they would say they don't need anything, right? That's usually the indication. Oh, they're needing a lot. Let's start with therapy. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if was that revealing enough or.
Absolutely.
I'm better. I'm better at it, but.
And this is where, like, as I put my therapist hat on in these moments, like in both our situations, is giving ourselves grace, going, we were young, we were uncertain, there's a lot of pain happening, and we've grown since then.
Yes, we have.
And it's all about that forgiveness and going, it's like, okay, I could have been better. And acknowledging it's like, okay, I want to be better and I'm going to be better.
It is also why I will stand and I will die on that hill with men and women who swear up and down that no strings attached is not abusive. And I'm like, oh no, it is. It is. It's totally is.
Like we said, before we even started recording tonight, everyone, both of us were like, are we sure we can record about this? Because we both have very strong opinions of it.
And we both totally agree.
And totally agree. No strings attached is abusive. No one is disposable.
And if you find yourself not knowing what to say, not knowing what to do, just default on the side of basic human decency.
Yep.
For yourself and for that other person. And if you find yourself feeling like you got a green light to treat another human like they're a piece of shit and disposable, know that you're the piece of shit in this situation.
Right on.
And let's not lie or hide from that.
Wow. Okay.
On that uplifting note, this has been a great podcast.
This
You're
has been a great
welcome.
podcast.
Blake and I are both talking to you from our moral high ground. Hey.
This is now our, what episode are we on now?
We're not allowed to count them anymore, mainly since the fifth one went away. So
Oh,
this
right.
is another episode.
So another fantastic episode. Bonnie and I really want to sincerely thank everyone that's made this so successful for us.
It has been amazing. Like the amount of feedback, the amount of listeners, just how much this has taken off. It's phenomenal. We love you so much.
And like we are so happy about it, and we have so much fun doing it, and we're so thankful for everyone that's tuned in and listened and gave us really awesome feedback and future topics for us to talk about.
Please keep it coming. Feedbacks, questions, it's just email it to info@drinkingwithyourx.com.
Yes, and like we're going to be, I'll be working on the Instagram page and Twitter account. So I go to Twitter @drinkingx.
Yes, so please come find us, come talk to us. We love you. This has just been amazing, and thank you so much.
All right, everybody, we're going to sign off for now, and it's time for a refill.
It is definitely time for a refill.